Hey, this is Rick.
This is Scotty.
This is your Pacu Jawi Photoshop tutorial video. Thanks for coming again, by the way. That was really, really fun, right, Scotty?
Fantastic.
That was really cool. Okay, we're going to go through 5 steps. First, which is going to be cropping, just finding your composition that you want. Second, we're going to go through these adjustment layers, basically global adjustments. So we're going to affect the whole image with each of these or a couple of these. That'll get you about 90-95% of the way there, right, Scotty?
That's right.
Then what are we going to do?
Then we can do some selective editing if you want. If you want to bring back some of the shadow areas that are blown out, maybe in levels or curves, we can do that. We can add a vignette. And then we're going to end by sharpening and showing you how to export your photo for the web or for print.
Right. Okay, so let's get started. Composition-wise, well, first of all, what sort of list do you go through in picking which one's the best, Scotty?
As far as
I mean, we have like 1,000 photos. Which one are you going to pick?
Rick and I kind of had a little checklist as we're going through, and we were watching these guys come through. We were like, we want to have the hooves in the air.
Hooves are up, so feet are coming out.
We want the entire cows to be in the photo.
Right.
It's nice if the guy's face is showing.
Face is showing.
His eyes, it'd be nice if they were open, but most of the time the guys have their eyes closed, which is not a problem.
The number one for me is feet are out.
Yeah.
We see the hooves coming out. We see the splash here. Sometimes it just looks really black and dull in this area. So it's just a quick filter. Other than that, it's just up to you, sort of preference. Obviously, like exposure and things like that will come into play. But very, very first, it's personal preference. Hooves are out.
Yeah,
right?
I like that. And, of course, you want to look at your focus, too, make sure everything's in focus.
Right. Okay, so let's crop it. What do you think? Let's go tight on this one?
I think so. I don't think we need to see all those people in the background.
No. I do like the people a bit because it does add a little bit of color, which is nice. I also like the size of the wake. That's something I also look for.
Yeah.
With the small cows, you don't get the big wakes. But these are 2 of the biggest cows out there, I think. So let's look at the wake a little bit. Something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit tighter.
And also be careful if you have a low resolution camera and you're really cropping in tight. Remember, you're not going to have a file that's very big. So if you ever want to print it, it'd be okay for the web. But if you want to print, you want to have you want to crop as little as possible.
Okay, so just pushing Z will give you the zoom. You can just click and go to the left. Also, space bar and command, you can go in and out to scroll back and forth, and that'll do it as well. Okay, so now we're in there. So there's your crop. There's our composition. Let's go ahead and do some global adjustments. So the 2 that you really need to look at are the levels and the curves. Levels will get you mostly around the endpoints. So what this means down here is all the black ones, all the black points. So these points down here are kind of dark. We don't have any pure black points. If you push Option and click, you'll see that there's none. There's no black points. Likewise, if I grab this and start sliding it in, you'll see that I start to get some black. And if I just unclick, look, it's pure black. Photographers and editors typically say, I don't want any black points. Let's just try and get as minimal as possible. By just dragging in this slider, I immediately create contrast, which is good, but we don't want a lot. Let's go over doing the light. Okay, so you can see here by option clicking, I already have some whites, so I think maybe leaving it on the end is probably pretty good.
Yep, you want to show some highlights areas.
And then you can this is called just sort of like an anchor point or a balance point. Just dragging this over to the right, you can see it's creating darker. And it's creating contrast without really even using the contrast adjustment layer. This gives you more control than the simple slider, which is good.
Yep.
Okay, make sure that you're very aware of what's happening down here. I already think it's a little bit too dark, so something like this seems to be appropriate. This one right here is just a limiter, so that just means we're not going to get those white points. Something useful, think something like that.
Be careful, you don't want to clip out lose any pixels. If you move those sliders too extreme, you'll lose those pixel and information in your photo.
All detail is now lost in this area. There's no detail whatsoever, and that's also something to watch out for. You want detail in every single portion of your image. Okay, so something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, that looks good.
That looks pretty good. Okay, so there's one Those are basically the endpoints. We're now taking care of the lightest part of the image and also the darkest part of the image with the levels adjustment layer. Let's go over to the curves. This will affect more of the midtones. So how to read this is the input. So this is what goes in as, and this is the output. So right now this gray value goes in and it comes out the exact same gray value. So Scotty, what will happen if I just drag this whole thing up?
Well, I like to think of curves as sort of a slider switch, a dimmer switch. So when you move on the left and up, the column on the left and right will dim or darken or brighten that particular gray value. So where you have the cursor right now, if you move it up, that particular gray value and everything on the line will be moving the dimmer switch to a brighter level, so it'll brighten those colors.
Right. You can see the gray value there, right there. Follow it up. It's not the same gray value. It's lighter.
It's now been moved up.
Yeah, moved up just like the dimmer switch. So obviously way too far, but that was just for the example. What do you think we should do?
I like to create what's called an S-curve on a curve. So sort of brighten my brights and darken the darks.
Now the brightest portion,
more contrast.
The brightest portion will stay the same. See, that enters in as white and exits as white. And same with the dark, enters as black, exits at black. So we're not dealing with the endpoints, but we're dealing with the middles. So we can actually put in 2 points here and create a little bit more local contrast by creating a little bit of an S-curve.
And we're really working with the midtones here.
Yeah, and if you grab shift on both of them, you can actually move both at the same time. Like that. Okay.
We can see how Rick has created somewhat of an S-curve there.
Okay, let's just something like that.
Down and a little bit higher. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. I was starting to lose some of my highlights. Okay, so you can see what's happening here. My whole eye is focusing right here. That's a problem. So that's why we need selective adjustments. All we've done so far are global adjustments to the entire image. So this is a little bit of a complicated idea, and like I said, just the global adjustments will get you about 95% of the way there, but the selective adjustments will take your image to the next level. So you see this white palette right here? What that is called a layer mask. And if I want to go back to what's underneath, you can see it's a little bit lighter here. Just turn off your layer and you can see what you want below. All you need to do is grab your brush tool.
Just type the letter B.
Go to the soft brush right here. Make it bigger. Size. Make it a little bit bigger.
Also use the left and right bracket key.
Left and right bracket like this.
Change the size of your brush.
Okay. And then your foreground color needs to be black. So just go and push X or the switch button right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to color right there. And it will poke a hole to the layer below it. So
that brings back the detail in that dark area.
And I can, if I want to undo it, I can switch and go back with white and paint it back in. You can actually option click right on that white part and you'll see where you painted.
And wherever it's black, you're shining through to the lower layer.
It's essentially poking a hole in the layer here and shining through to the layer below. That's it. That's what a layer mask is. So something like that. What do you think, Scotty?
Looking good.
Looking pretty good. I think this is a little bit too dark here.
Much more detail there.
I think I lost some detail there. Okay. I might even want this curves adjustment layer might even be a little bit too dark. Something like that.
The nice thing about these adjustment layers is you can always go back and make changes if you make a mistake. You never want to use the eraser tool and erase the original image.
No.
This is called non-destructive editing.
Non-destructive. Okay. So what do we think? We're pretty good?
Looking good.